This is The Dime, a 10-minute dive into the cannabis and hemp industry through trends, insights, predictions, and tangents.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Dime. As always, I've got Kellen Finney here with me, and this week we have a special guest, Chris Denicola from Crappies. Chris, before we get started, how you doing today?
Good. Staying warm. It's single-digit degrees out there in the mountains of Conifer, Colorado, but loving it.
Awesome. Before we get started, can you tell the listeners a little bit about your backstory, how you got into this space, and a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So once upon a time, I would say back in the 90s, got a chemistry degree. From there, moved pretty quickly into big pharma. And, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was the goal of every chemist basically coming out of college was get into big pharma, get into Merck, a GSK, a Wyeth, something like that. And you're set for life. And pretty soon after that, they started to have the contractions and the issues in the farm industry, and lots of people started laying off. Unfortunately, they kept me. I actually wanted to get my package so I could go start a brewery. But from there, slight tangent. A lot of people ask me how should chemists get started in the cannabis space? My biggest thing is go work for 2 years as a QC chemist in pharma. That is the best education that you can get on analytical techniques, what's important, where error comes from, and just understanding all the technology and instruments that are out there. Anywho, so from pharma land, actually took a year off. I think it was around 2004. Went and tried to play professional golf, AA, AAA league. Had a blast, but did terribly. I mean, I had the game, but didn't have the mind at the time. And, I always think back to those times when I'm designing these products. So it was like, I really could have used these products, for the focus, for the recovery, for the sleep, for the clarity. Anywho, then got into some learning how to do product development and talking to customers. So market research, understanding when a customer says they want something, it doesn't always mean they want that product. It means they want that experience or that effect. So being able to really clearly listen to customers and translate that into needs, really gave me a good foundation to essentially apply the chemistry knowledge and the customer knowledge to what I'm doing today. Then back in 2013, moved to Colorado, started working in the cannabis space, hated it, hated it. Really wanted to get out, but stumbled upon some technology that I remembered from when I was working in Pharmaland and started working towards that, testing it, understanding what we could do with these cannabinoids from a perspective of not smoking or not vaping or not tincturing or gummy bearing, and saw that it was really working. So, I've really spent the last 4 or 5 years perfecting that technology, understanding how it works, but more importantly, understanding the terpenes. And I think you guys would agree the terpenes are where a lot of the magic happens for the perceived effects that consumers feel. CBD sure can make you feel tired or relaxed, but it's not always the best tired or relaxed. It's the terpene blends from maybe like an OG Kush or like a Gorilla Glue that really give you that sense of, I feel good. I've got that well-being, but it's more natural.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
super long nutshell.
No, I'm looking forward to diving into that. I got so many questions, but I need to stick to the script before we dive into those fun things. So that was my pause. Crappies, right? What is the origination of Crappies and why tablets?
Sure. So I'll say it's Crappies Feel Better Hemp Company.
Okay.
We don't want people to think they're Crappies products. But back when I was working for a company called ResTech, I was on the road a lot, doing market research, doing sales and technical trainings all over the world, be gone for 6-7 weeks at a time, not see friends, family. So I'd get back to, the main office just exhausted and tired and usually in a bad mood because people were beating us up for, at the time, were really terrible products. So I got nicknamed Crappy. from some of my friends there. And so when our designer was coming up with this brand concept, her husband was the one that coined Crappy for me. So she knew about it. So she's like, hey, I got this concept. I don't know what you're going to think about it. I saw it. Of course, I'm just like, nope, go on. Let's do something else. But we tested it. We sent it out to a couple people, and, by and large, I think 2 people so far haven't liked it. They didn't quite grasp it. But everybody else thinks it's hilarious, and it's fun. It's a cool brand. So why tablets? That's a good question. There are technical reasons and there are just cultural reasons. I'd say cultural reasons are Flintstone vitamins. We all know how to take a chewable tablet. I don't think any of us are really too familiar with gummy bears being some kind of supplement aside from like kids' vitamins. Tinctures, I don't think an American's taken a tincture since the 1800s, except for this cannabis and hemp space. All of a sudden they're magic. And to me, I wanted to stay away from vape. Very early on when I was working in the cannabis space, I saw what people were putting in vape products to make sure that they didn't crystallize, make sure they flow. They were skimping on what was in the coils and everything else. And I was like, I'm not going to put my name on something that goes into people's lungs. So once we started working on the technology, we understood how it worked. To us, a chewable tablet allowed you to start getting absorption in the sublingual gland. So the onset was fast. When you swallow it, you get more absorption from the stomach, and then the rest of the absorption from the intestine. So not only did we have a fast onset, we had an extended onset as well. So anywhere from 4 to 8 hours.
Yeah, that's a really impressive breakdown. And then from like a product formulation standpoint, obviously you've got the hangover one, the bounce back, the go-getter, the power down. Can you take us through kind of the origin on how some of those were created and how individuals on an everyday standpoint can feel a trust and association when kind of taking this product? And there's kind of this misnomer with CBD and understanding kind of how it works in its simplest form, right? As if you're communicating to a child. Can you just kind of roughly take people through that?
Yeah. I'll start with, I'm sure you guys have heard this too. People referring to cannabinoids as CBDs. Like, do you have product with CBDs in there? And it's like, no, there's CBD, and then there's other cannabinoids, and they all kind of do their own thing. And what we've learned over the past couple of years is that the minor cannabinoids, maybe ones people haven't heard of, so CBG, CBN, CBC, CBDV, they actually interact with the endocannabinoid system better than CBD. And I know that's a higher level than people want, and for most people, that's not important. In the same way, no one knows out there how caffeine works or how your Advil works or your Tylenol works. You just take it. With these, we wanted to make sure that we had the right level of actives or cannabinoids to do a certain thing. So with the anti-inflammatory, CBG is better than CBD, and it doesn't have the same sedative effect that CBD does. CBN was a tricky nut to crack because it can be sedative at higher doses. And with our technology, we had to learn where the right effective dose was. And that's how we landed in the 1 to 2 milligram range. But when you're talking about like the power down for sleep or the go-getter for energy, the fade fighter for focus, where those effects come from are actually the terpene blends. And people are always like, yeah, terpenes, what are they? They are the compounds that are in essential oils. They're the compounds that are in fruits and vegetables and plants and pine trees that, when you go out walking in nature, in a conifer forest that, I'm looking at right now, you breathe in that pinene. And by breathing in that pinene, which is a bronchial dilator, it opens your lungs. You're just breathing better. You're breathing more naturally, getting more oxygen in, so you just feel better. So terpenes are in so many different products that we're exposed to already. The cannabis plant just focused them and gave them a personality. And so what we've learned is how to tap the cannabis strains, understand what those personalities can do, and then apply them to certain products with certain cannabinoid ratios. Now, I'll say there is a bell curve to these products. You know, our power down doesn't work 100% of the time for 100% of the people. We had to pick ones that work for 80% of the people. And we wanted to make sure for the power down, for the sleep one, that you fell asleep quickly and naturally, but that you weren't knocked out. Like you can be on too much CBD or you can be on too much CBN. If something happens during the night, an alarm goes off, a child wakes you up, dog needs to go out, you can still function and you're still alert when that happens. And then you can go back to sleep quickly right after that. And then finally, unlike melatonin, we don't want you to have that groggy feeling in the morning. And so we went through I don't even want to say how many different iterations trying to figure out. I mean, like we have 3 more products. I mean, we're still playing with the sleep product because we want to make it as good as we can. We made a good one. We want to make it better.
Yeah, and I'm sure my mom is going to be really ecstatic to hear that that's being evolved, because that I know that is one of her favorite products. Kellen, do you have an experience with CBD products from a minor cannabinoid statement where the first time you took that and you were like, wow, this is kind of eye-opening?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about it earlier this week, right? I was working in the cannabis industry, not having a great time either, right? But everyone was talking about CBD and how it affected you and all these things. And I was like, yeah, I don't really know about that. You know, I was like, not really the same. And so I ended up taking a large dose of CBD, like concentrated CBD oil, right? And I took a large dose, and like within the hour, I literally felt like my whole neck relax. And I was like, oh, wow, like there is actually something going on here, right? And it was pretty incredible when it first happened, because it made me an instant believer. I was like, nope, like CBD is definitely doing stuff to your muscles and relaxing you. And like, I don't know exactly how the mechanism is working, but it definitely works, right? And so that was my first experience. One other thing I did want to just kind of run by you and see if it's a good analogy as far as terpenes go. Something that was explained to me as far as the effects of terpenes is comparing like people who drink beer versus people who drink like a vodka, right? Like if you're at a party with people drinking beer, there's a lot more like liveliness to it. And was my old PI, who was a big beer brewer, would always swear that it was the terpenes from hops in the beer that caused like that liveliness, versus you go to a party where people are like taking shots and drinking alcohol that doesn't have those terpenes present. It's a completely different vibe, right? And so that was kind of how it was explained to me from an analogy standpoint. And I thought that at least it made sense to me. What do you think of that analogy, Chris?
100%. I mean, the main ingredients in hops doing that magic are terpenes. And that's why you saw like that rise in, you know, IPAs, session IPAs, pale ales, you know, from the late 90s on, because people enjoy them more. You know, they can overhop and you can get those same kind of headaches that you can get from, you know, cannabis or anything else. But once people found the right strains of hops, you know, the mosaics, the citras, amarillos, like they really, those were the happy ones, the up ones, more so than your dark bitters that, you know, you drink during the wintertime and it's just, you know, to relax or chill out. And that's why gins, I think the modern gin is pretty popular too, because most of those compounds that are distilled in there are the terpenes. And I love your story about the CBD. I've got one for CBN that, you know, we didn't know how the technology was going to affect CBN. And I took a 10 milligram dose of CBN and I was asleep for 2 days. I was like, okay, that was strong. Knocked it down to 5 milligrams. I was like, yeah, just slept for a day and it wasn't a great sleep. So that's how we backed it off to like 1 milligram doses. And we started taking a 1 milligram tablet with some of our other products to see how it blended. Yeah, it's, you know, I think Brian, you asked like, how do we figure these out? It's a lot of trial and error in house. And it's like when we started playing around with CBC for the Go-Getter, we had no idea what was going to happen. And that one in the literature, and it's so weird. There's there is nothing in the literature that talks about the effects that we notice from CBC. And I believe it's mainly because of the solubility. When you take what you think is the right dose of CBC, you're not getting a lot. So you're not getting the effective dose that we can deliver with these products. And it's such a unique, it's just pure drive, pure, I don't want to say energy, but like nothing can stop you from getting something done. And that's why I really love that Go-Getter product. But it also doesn't do a lot for anti-inflammatory or anti-pain. We really haven't seen that synergistic effect that people have written about in the literature. It likes to be on its own, or it shines when it's on its own. How about that?
Yeah, the CBC one I hadn't tried yet. I'm gonna have to add that to this weekend's list. So definitely would go to that one.
If you've got physical stuff to do, like I know you were talking about how it's still dumping out there. So I'd say if you've got to go shovel some snow, that is a perfect one to take with a bounce back afterwards for the soreness.
I've been leaning on the bounce back pretty aggressively to kind of help me through some of the new ages that I'm dealing with, some of these aches and pains, which is really unfortunate. They don't really describe that as a common practice. And it's one that I think I'm just going to have to incorporate into like a daily life. Kellen and I have been fortunate to interview a bunch of people now, and it seems like a consistent thing that people are incorporating cannabinoids as like a daily multi-purpose vitamin, and it's making a world of difference. And, sooner rather than later, I wonder if that becomes like a mainstay in their life where take a multi-purpose vitamin, you pop one of these cannabinoids, and I'm sure you've got some experiences where you've incorporated that into a daily routine.
Absolutely. And that's why we picked the products that we have, is because we wanted them to be choosable from a consumer's perspective, but also routine. Power down for helping you fall asleep, bounce back in the morning, or a fade fighter in the morning, whichever direction you want to go for that focus or that recovery. Go-getter in the afternoon to keep you going. People have figured out different routines that they, just resonate with for the different products. But we didn't want to just have, here's a 1,500 milligram CBD tincture. Good luck.
Yeah.
We wanted to steer people towards what the outcome would actually be.
Let's talk about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. That's right. No more excuses. Get your lazy ass off the couch. Go start a podcast. There's the creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Once again, no more excuses. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Couldn't be easier. Even better, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. That's right. They're paying us for this ad. Thank you very much, Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started now.
So if you were making a recommendation, obviously with COVID going on and life kind of being a little disrupted, I've got a friend, he's got a wife, a newborn at home, dealing with all the COVID things, looking for a recommendation, skeptical of kind of the cannabinoids, not sure which one to try. I was recommending him more of like a slower down to a relaxed one. I'm curious about a fade fighter and some of these others. What would you recommend to an anxious mom who's looking to kind of relax a little bit and kind of slow down with all life's challenges?
Sure. That fantastic question. And we get that a lot, especially since last, spring, summer, fall. We have seen a number of stay-at-home moms that, sound like they're dealing with the same thing, have a combination of fade fighter in the morning, the afternoon to just help them get things done, focus on the kids, focus on the schooling, not go crazy in the house, along with either the party prep to kind of take away that anxiousness or anxiety so that, they just feel good, but they're not altered in any other way. They can still focus and get stuff done. The newer one that we just launched, I don't know, was it November? Something like that. The Chill Out, that's a good one too. And that one's unique. I don't want to describe that. I don't want to bring it back to drinking, but when you take that first sip of a really good, just whiskey or bourbon, you get home from a long, stressful day, and you just get that involuntary smile, and like your shoulders drop and you're just like, yes, okay, screw you world. I'm just going to enjoy the next like couple hours and, whatever. But it's not couch lock. It's not like one of those things where you're taking a massive dose and, and I'm going back to Kellen's experience. You're not just on the couch, like blah, like drooling from a big dose or anything. You're still fully functional. It's just that we've been able to really shave off that edge. So long story short, I would say Fade Fighter in the morning and Party Prep Chill Out in the afternoon.
Awesome. And then I know everyone's a little different and everyone's bodies handle things differently. From like an expected working, when they can start anticipating to feel the difference versus the duration. Can you give some rough kind of walkthrough on that?
Absolutely. Most people, so if you fully chew it up and let it, just sit in your mouth for 10, 20 seconds, something like that before you swallow it, you should start feeling some kind of effect in 5 to 15 minutes. And, we actually found some really good natural flavors to add into these tablets, because not everybody likes the cannabinoid taste or the terpene taste. So these natural flavors are really starting to round out and balance the other flavors in there so that people do enjoy taking them. So on average, 5 to 20 minutes, 5 to 15 minutes is when it should kick in. And I would say it lasts 4 to 8 hours, depending on the person and depending on the product. Yeah. But it's not like it's not like there's a crash. It's just, many hours later, you're like, oh, I think I could take another one if you need it.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example of how that felt. And I've got a story about that also, a little slightly different. Is I've been fortunate enough to try a ton of different cannabinoid products. And back in our old life, I was doing a lot of traveling back and forth across the coast. And I was doing a bunch of red eye, which was the easiest way to get back from the West Coast. And my normal routine, get home from a red eye, quick little nap, wake up, have as much coffee as the body could possibly handle to try and get through like that final day. And one day I tried that route. It was awful. And I had to make a social obligation into the city. And I had one of your products sitting on my desk. I think it was like a Bounce Back or a Go Get. I don't remember which one it was. And I took it and I felt like me again. And that is when I instantly converted from maybe more of a skeptic to being like, holy shit. Like, not only does this work, it made me feel like me, which I would have given anything in the entire world in those moments to kind of be present. And that's where I think it really eye-opened to me. And that's where I'm really most excited for others to kind of get that experience where they're kind of skeptic now, but in the future, when they try some of these products, specifically one of the ones that you discussed before, I think it'll open up their eyes.
I love that story. And I love that you looked at the package and you tried it. You didn't look at the package and say, oh, there's only 5 milligrams of CBD and everything on the interweb says you have to have 50 milligrams of CBD for something to happen. And, as a chemist, as a formulator, as part of the design of these products, it's not about just the number of CBD. It's about everything that we put together in that package to make that effect happen. And, I hope with what we have on the website, the blogs, how we explain the products, I hope we're able to get across that these are right dosed products or correctly dosed products, not gimmicks.
No, and I think what you're saying is probably the number one reason that I was really excited about your products when we first got in touch, because I mean, just like you said, you go to the internet and it's more, right? You can go buy a 2000 milligram CBD tincture and then there's someone selling a 4000 milligram CBD tincture, right? And so you're like, well, I should get more CBD for my dollar. But at the end of the day, that's not how chemicals interact with the body, like more isn't always better. And I think that a lot, like the educational aspect of it is what really separated you guys. And why I was so infatuated with your guys' products is that you took a traditional like chemical approach to the design of them, so that when you eat, say, one of your products, 10 milligrams of CBD, all 10 milligrams is going into your bloodstream. You're absorbing all of those all of the CBD molecules that you ingest, which is not the case with like a tincture or another CBD product that doesn't take that same care in the design of it. And I think that that's probably one of the most powerful aspects associated with the products that you guys are putting out right now.
Thank you. Yeah, and super glad you noticed that. I know there's a lot of push towards companies doing nano and water soluble, and what I think you would understand is like chemical encapsulation. And we just took a very different approach to that. Pharma and Nutra abandoned that decades ago because of issues. And you can Google what those issues were. But so we skipped ahead to, what does pharma do now? And this is a very modern, safe, effective, stable approach to applying these not very soluble compounds to the body. And that's what we wanted to do. But it's in the background, and you don't have to know how it works for it to help you. In the same way, no one understands how a transmission works, and yet you drive your car every single day and you trust that it's going to work. But kind of going back to something Brian said, actually what both of you said, and I don't want this to come across as salesy or as an advertisement, but one of the things that we noticed in the market was two things. One, people were always talking about how they were getting burned buying CBD products for $80, $90, $140, $200, and it didn't do anything for them. And what we wanted to make sure is that people were able to try our products without spending a lot of money. So $5 for 3 doses, or, we've got a sampler on the website. I think it's $35 gets you a sample size of all of our products. And you can figure out which product you like the best or what product works best for you when, without having to compromise on money. Or, well, this one seems right, so I'll just go here. And yet one of the other ones could have been like the right one for you. So that was important for me to make sure that was out there for people to just give it a try, and low risk.
So personal question here, what can we expect from Crappies in the future? Obviously, you've got yourself a pretty good product portfolio already with some of the minors. And I'm more interested to hear from a long-term perspective, will Crappies continue to kind of expand out the minors? Will you have different focuses with different effects? Can you take us through some of that?
Yeah. Short term, we've got our pet line coming out, which there are no terpenes in. We feel that terpenes don't necessarily belong in pet products. They're toxic to cats and some breeds of dogs. And because of the tech and because of the minors, we're able to tune those products for what the dogs and the cats need. So, we've got a calming product for dogs with, they're just a bit anxious, and then 2 versions of a mobility product that are based on the size of the dog. We are working on a product for dogs with seizures that incorporates CBDV. So definitely one of the up and coming minors that's out there. We're trying to get that into some clinical trials just to show people, hey, this is safe, this is effective. So that's on the pet side of things. Our next Crappies product will be, I'm pretty sure, a women's health. I'm going to call it a women's health kit. What we found was that we could incorporate CBG, CBN, CBDV with 2 different versions of terpene blends for women that experience the symptoms of around PMS. So that, we work with one person that, it knocks them out for 2 days, and they're not able to get their work done. They're not able to function very well. They just want to sleep and have chocolate and, ice cream, whatever. And, what she asked us for was, can you build me something that, allows me to just feel, and this is your words too, lets me feel like me again. And it's like, absolutely. So, we went through probably 6-8 months of trial for that. Problem with CBDV is it's really expensive and tough to find. So we wanted to make sure that this wasn't another tax on women. So we wanted to build this kit where it was a number of doses of the daytime, a number of doses of the evening, and basically a new muscle cream that we developed that's got CBG, CBN, and CBD. and it works super fast. Very great at again, the spasm symptoms or the cramp symptoms. So we're putting together this kit. We're still working on all the details and logistics around it, but we wanted to make sure that it's low cost, a kit for a couple days that, women weren't spending a lot on, but that they could trust. So that's coming out hopefully Q2 is my guess. After that, I kind of want to get through those two and then maybe sleep. I'm not quite sure. I mean, we're constantly trying new formulations to see where can we fill in a gap that we may have with the formulations that we have. I'm waiting to get some samples of THCV. I know that could be a really interesting cannabinoid, and if we can find one that's cost effective, I'd love to start introducing that into some of the products. But as I said, I think before we were recording, we're still playing around with different sleep formulas because sleep is so personal. And you could have sleep problems because you have pain, and that pain keeps you from sleeping. You could have sleep problems because your mind is going a million miles an hour. You could have sleep problems because you just can't fall asleep. And building one formula that encompasses all of those reasons for not being able to sleep has been a challenge. And we know that, our bell curve for that one, the amount of people that we're actually able to reach with that product is smaller than we want it to be. So, we're constantly going back and tweaking and finding new formulas that can help people where our power down doesn't. Then it's just a matter of, and you see this with launching a brand and launching a store, it's already hard enough to explain what CBD does and how, what products to use when. If we were then to have 3 different sleep formulas, that would confuse the crap out of people. So we need to make sure that we're doing the marketing model and the messaging correctly so that we're not confusing people and having them give up before they even try the product.
Right. And just a quick
paralysis by analysis.
You could call it, there's 3 different versions. You can call it like nap, normal sleep, and coma. And that way people would know really well, if I want to go into coma, this is the one I would take. No charge.
Yeah.
Prediction time. We're going to talk minor cannabinoids. I'm going to let Kellen go first so that he has the easiest chance of taking his favorite one. 2024, right after CBD, like you said before, Chris, everyone's like CBDs. Kellen, what do you think would be the next minor cannabinoid that takes the reign from CBD to become, we'll call it the king cannabinoid?
I don't think that there's going to be a minor cannabinoid that kind of takes CBD's crown in the public domain. I do think, though, that there's a lot of potential for CBG as an API in the pharmaceutical industry. I know that, and please speak up if I misspeak here, but I was reading a couple articles regarding CBG's application for anti-cancer. There's some cool studies coming out of Canada right now that have shown some promising results with CBG in the treatment of cancer. And so I could potentially see CBG becoming the top cannabinoid API, if you will. So that's my prediction. What do you think, Chris?
I 100% agree. I think because of Charlotte's Web and because of, Anderson Cooper and Sanjay Gupta, just the term CBD will always be applied to this market, and it'll always be the one that people look for. But I think CBG is actually the best. It's got the most amount of promise, the most amount of efficacy with the least amount of side effects. And when you're talking pharma, side effects are its worst nightmare. And, I think CBG will get through the process a lot easier than CBD ever would. But I don't know, the minors they're so interesting. I love working with them.
And it's so incredible to talk about this because it's so much open field of development and opportunities in this space and understanding how that works. I'm going to take a little different route, like always. I would normally have selected CBN, which I thought would have been an easy choice for either of you, because obviously with the sleep being a massive, massive opportunity space, that's an easy one, especially when you're talking about like end with night. That's an easy association where I think sometimes people need that direct connection of, okay, I take this with this. And maybe as we evolve, there'll be less about the actual cannabinoids and more about, like you've done, go getter, power down, and things like that. But the cannabinoid I'm going to select is going to be THCV. And from the standpoint of, obviously, the early articles about the skinny pot and how consuming this cannabinoid can help you lose weight, I think will be the easiest path to mass adoption. Obviously, people are consistently evolving from a diet standpoint, and if they can consume a cannabinoid while still living their normal life to help them lose weight, even better so. So if THCV is that one where there's more advancements, that thing could pick up like a wildfire and just spread everywhere.
I'm super excited to get our THCV. We ordered it, I think, in December, and it still hasn't gotten here. So that reminds me, I'll make another call after this to be like, where is our sample?
An easy bestseller. Yeah. Once you market that correctly, especially if you can kind of get where you're looking for, that'll fly off the shelf. Especially if you can drop it into your women's package too.
I'm staying away from that.
Yeah, well, just from like an association standpoint, it's an easy to
absolutely
model. So
absolutely.
The last question we ask all of our guests: when was the last time you consumed any cannabinoid?
I think it was this morning. I took a bounce back. I mean, to me, the people are like, "Do you just make these products?" And it's like, no, I take them often. I'm habitual user of our products. I'll say that I also take products that we don't sell because we're always tinkering. We've got one that I think it's almost like a party prep and a fade fighter in one product that I kind of live off of right now. But yeah, I mean, I live on these things. I use a different version of the power down to help me sleep. We're playing around with new muscle rubs to make them as effective as possible. You know, I build my own soaps. I build my own like toiletry products, deodorant, toothpaste. You know, we have a chewable toothpaste that is all natural and it's got the cannabinoids in there. It's great for travel. I mean, I know no one's traveling anymore, but you know, it's a tablet that you can just sit there and chew and start brushing your teeth, and it's all natural. Just an awesome product. I make all my own, face creams and everything else. So every day.
So appreciate your time today, kind of chopping it up with us. Where can the listeners get in touch with you? Where can they learn more about the Crappies products? Do you have any social handles, things like that?
Yeah, our website is crappiesfeelbetter.com. We've got a number of blogs on there that go into a little bit of the science or go into a little bit of the philosophy of why we built things the way we did. Our Instagram is Crappies Feel Better. I think it's just Crappies Feel Better. Oscillating around the 12,000 follower mark. So, listeners, please get up there, like, comment, subscribe. I don't know, whatever the social thing is these days. So yeah, I mean, we're hoping to do some more videos on Instagram this year to just have that more personal engagement. Talking about the products. You've seen our containers. Sometimes people struggle just to open our containers. So I want to have a little video on there. This is how you open them, and they're child resistant. We built them that way. So we're growing, we're expanding.
Awesome. We'll tag all that in the show bio, and appreciate your time, Chris, and look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, thank you both, Brian, Kellen. Love being on here. Great conversation.
Chris.